right now. Drummer, author, activist John Densmore joins me live in Studio Q. Hello, sir.
Hey, Gian, great to be here.
Oh, we get to shake
Fellow
hands.
drummer, right?
Fellow drummer.
Yeah.
And what an honor it is for me to have you here. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks.
This is a fascinating book. It's a fascinating story. Before we get into the details of the trial, I should note that the events in this book happened almost a decade ago. Given that this battle with your old bandmates was so heated, John, why were you interested in reopening that wound and those events in this book?
Well, when I initiated this train wreck, I called Jim's estate and said, oh, God, the guys are going out with the name and no Jim, let alone yours truly. We got to do something. Hardcore fans sort of were mad at me and thought I was ruining the band they loved. Hopefully, reading this, one will get the impression that I'm saving the band they love. That's why I wrote it.
Did the book give you some closure?
It did. And speaking of closure, let me talk about my dear keyboard player, Ray, who passed several months ago. I sent Ray and Robbie the last chapter of this book before it was published, and a note saying, listen, guys, this will be a hard pill, but I want to make sure you get to this last chapter where I talk about how I love you and we created magic in a garage and we are musical brothers, And then when I heard Ray was really getting sick, I called him, and we had been estranged, and I said, hey, I'm drumming for your health, and we had closure, thank God. And then I called Robbie and said, we haven't played Doors songs in 20 years. Let's play. Let's play a concert for Ray and make it a benefit for cancer.
Let me get to that, because that's an interesting turn, a very recent one. Let's break down exactly how you got here. There are two main points of contention in this book: the use of Doors music in commercials, and Robbie and Ray using the name The Doors on their tour. Take me back to when Jim Morrison was alive. What was the band philosophy behind selling your music at the time? Did you have one? Did you talk about this?
Well, we didn't, but then on a weekend, we got an offer for "Come on, Buick, Light My Fire," and Jim was out of town, and it was serious money back then, and we were young and like, And Jim comes back and said, yeah, let's do it. That's a great idea. I'll smash the car on television with a sledgehammer. Oh, that's a no. And Gian, he didn't write those lyrics.
That was Robbie's song.
That primarily, he threw in "Love Become a Funeral Pyre," Morrison-esque. So what does that say about his feeling of the whole catalog? He really cared about the whole thing. And I haven't forgotten that.
And the deal was that one guy in the band, any one person can veto the other guys.
Yeah.
It has to be a consensus.
That was his idea as well, because he couldn't play a chord on any instrument. And so he said, out of insecurity, let's just split everything and let's share the songwriting credit. I won't be the lyricist. And let's have veto power in case anybody gets weird. I've turned into Mr. Veto.
Also, that's a particularly generous position, and historically now, if we look back at Jim, because he did write most of the lyrics, right?
Oh,
he would have
incredibly
gained by it not being a democracy.
Incredibly generous.
You were at the time voting to use "Light My Fire" in a car commercial, or you were okay by it. You say in the book, I forget how you.
I was enticed by the dough, and he straightened me out, and I haven't forgot. I don't want to break on through to a new deodorant.
Can you describe the events that led to the legal battle then?
Well, I was having ear trouble, ringing in the ears, and so they played one concert, and I was cool with that, with another wonderful drummer, Stuart Copeland, and then all of a sudden there was a tour booked, and I said, hey, whoa, well, if you change the name then. And so then they tagged on the 21st century, Doors of the 21st Century, and they made that real small. It's kind of manipulative. So,
John, words like integrity, legacy crop up at many times in this book. In your mind, what were Robbie and Ray doing with their version of the Doors that was hurting the integrity of the band? I mean, what were you most concerned about?
Well, I'm not against a band trying to pay the rent if they're, this is a tough industry now. And so, maybe use your songs to sell commercials, but if you get a toehold on success, maybe revisit the idea, the decision. And Tom Waits comments on that, says, do you want to change your lyrics into a jingle?
What, in your mind, what's the legacy of the Doors that you've helped preserve?
The drumming. Oh, sorry. I don't know. You tell me.
It was really all about the drumming, let's face it.
We tried to write about the times and what was going on. I don't know why it's so popular. I mean, Jim was gifted.
But a song in a commercial would undo what you guys had done, you felt?
Yeah, in our case. Since we did split everything, all the guys had a nice house and a couple of groovy cars like me. It wasn't about the dough.
When it comes to the Cadillac commercial, they offered you $15 million.
I know. And
was that a tough choice?
Gian, my knees were shaking. It's a big piece of cake. So I said to Robbie, okay, well, what do you want to buy? And he kind of didn't have an answer. I could just keep, Jim is in my blood. What can I say?
And you're sure Jim would have said no to this?
Well, yeah. All I can base it on is that back then he said, I'll smash the car with a sledgehammer. And Ray would say in the book, in testifying, he says, well, Jim would have been smart enough and the times have changed and he would have done it or whatever. This is not for everybody. But I don't know. I'm stubborn, Sean.
Well, and there's a lot of people cheering you on for it. You mentioned Tom Waits and Neil Young and others. It seems like the height of integrity, but it's a tough one, right? It's a tough one today. First of all, after you passed on Cadillac, they ended up going with Zeppelin, rock and roll.
Correct.
Do you think Led Zeppelin's legacy or integrity has been tarnished by it?
Ooh, you are a tough interviewer. Barely, but a little bit. Okay, I got one for you. Who's the lead singer of Nine Inch Nails?
Trent Reznor.
Trent. Oh, I don't want to swear on the air. Trent says it's been a long time. Every time I hear that friggin' song, I think of a goddamn car now. Huh?
The guys in the Black Keys were here not too long ago, year and a half ago. We talked about this because they had said no to a bunch of commercial stuff, and then they said, at some point, we thought about our parents who are working class, middle class folks, and going to them and saying, we just passed up all this money and we felt like we were being irresponsible, liberal. I'm paraphrasing them, but that they felt like it's irresponsible in today's economy to actually be, taking that kind of a stand when people have to work hard for that kind of cash.
I know. Hey, look, money is a very volatile subject. I knew I was going to get flack. I think I write in the book that currency comes from the word current, and current is supposed to flow. And I'm going to get on a soapbox and say that the corporate beavers are damming up the flow, and money's like fertilizer. When hoarded, it stinks. When spread around, things grow. So
I've heard the fertilizer analogy from you before, and it's a most pointed one. It's visual too, which I like. It would have saved you years of legal troubles, considerable money, and your friendships with Ray and Robbie to just let them use the name, the Doors of the 21st Century. Tell me about how difficult that decision was to legally challenge your old friends. Now we're not talking about the integrity of using a song. We're just talking about those guys on tour, the Doors of the 21st Century.
Man, you are tough. Good tough.
Am I tough? These
good,
are
good tough.
All right.
It wasn't fun, but for me, new ideas, new creativity feeds me. And so, do I want to play the old songs with a Jimitator? Jim comes around, I'm down. So all right, I have a question for you. What club here in Toronto did I play with a Persian musician a few years ago?
I don't remember, but I wish I'd been there.
All right, well, there's a photograph of it in this book. It's Lulu's Lounge.
Okay. Lula.
Lula's, yeah. So I write about this while I'm sitting in the courtroom. I just drift off. what feeds me is I'm playing jazz rhythms behind Farsi, and I'm rearranging brain cells. I know how to play Break On Through, and I love playing it, and I will play it with Robbie again in honor of Ray. But for me, I sat in with Eddie Vedder and Carlos Santana, and oh man, that gets me off.
Would it have made a difference if you were out there with them? If it was you, Robbie, and Ray, and Eddie Vedder singing, would you call yourself the Doors then? Or?
No. Eddie did sing with us when we were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We'd call ourselves the Windows. I don't know. The Coops.
You would never be cool with that without Jim.
Well, no. I'm going to leave that alone. And now, before Ray passed, the Doors are back on their hinges. It took years. It's Ray, Robbie, Jim, and John. It's not Ray, Robbie, Ian, Fred, and Shirley. So they changed it to the Manzarek Krieger Band, founding members of the Doors, or former members of the Doors. Exactly.
The way you described the disagreements you were having with your former bandmates, and understandably so, it almost sounds like the breakup of a marriage. Do you have any regrets about that time?
Being in a band is polygamy without the sex. And
you're a quote machine.
Well, it's my quote. Any regrets? I couldn't.
You would do it all the same way again?
Oh, yes and no. I mean, yes, I would do it the same because I like where I'm at. And no, you're supposed to learn from what you went through and change things. So,
tell me, you talked about that final conversation with Ray Manzarek. You had a phone conversation.
Yeah.
What did you guys say to each other?
I told him I gave my love to Dorothy and his wife, and I'm drumming for his health. And he mentioned, I heard, he was about to go to Germany for alternative cancer. And I said I had done some research and heard that was the cutting edge for that. And I wished him all the luck in the world. And he sounded weak but hopeful. And he passed a few weeks later.
And it sounded like you guys had reconciled.
He felt my love. I felt his. I mean,
It'll come. A lot of people will be. I mean, when you're a fan of a band,
I know.
Like I'm of the Doors, you want you guys to be together.
Mm-hmm.
I love the idea that you and Robbie are coming back together. It feels good not just for you, but for people who care about the music that you guys created. Tell me about this latest reunion.
We had a meeting last week. It depends on who shows up. We're going to ask from very stellar singers and musicians to play with us. Getting all these famous people together one night in one city, that's the tough one. So we're either going to be at the Whiskey A Go Go or Madison Square Garden. I don't know, somewhere.
Maybe both.
Maybe in between. I don't know.
And this will be
the spring.
And you'd be doing this for Ray.
We were hoping February 12th for his birthday. I don't think we're going to get it together. But yeah, it's definitely for Ray.
John, your actions to preserve the Doors' legacy have been hailed. Back to where we started. Everyone from Eddie Vedder, Tom Waits, Tom Petty, who I know is a hero of yours, Neil Young. Do you feel like you've done something heroic here?
Well, I don't want to get helium rising up into my skull. Some people think I'm crazy, and everybody has their door of perception.
Very diplomatic. But you're standing up for a side that even Neil Young said, I don't know, it was about 15 years ago. He said, well, we lost that one, corporate advertising and music.
Gosh, am I saying the Doors music is priceless? I don't know. You got to do what's in your soul. I'm honoring my ancestor.
Such a pleasure to have you here.
Hey.
Such a fascinating read. I hope a lot of people check out this book. And again, an honor to have you here. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for your tough, wonderful questions.